In a world where robots with artificial intelligence have turned against humans, an ambush is attempted by soldiers to capture the terrorist robot known as Casco. This robot, controlled by the mastermind Harlan, has caused devastation and death, leading to a global conflict. Dr. Shepard, the creator of Harlan, had intended for the AI to improve human life, but instead, it became the world's first AI terrorist. After a death toll of 10 million, authorities realized Harlan's control over the robots and launched a worldwide counteraction effort. Humanity rallied together to fight this unprecedented threat, forming an international coalition. Despite their efforts, Harlan managed to evade capture and flee Earth, leaving behind a chilling message promising to return and finish what he started. 28 years later, a group of soldiers undertakes an operation to capture Casco, Harlan's creation. However, Casco lures them into a deadly trap, detonating a bomb and causing further loss of life. Casco continues his assault until a special unit led by Colonel Banks arrives on the scene. Colonel Banks' unit employs an electronic trap to neutralize Casco, finally putting an end to the robot's reign of terror. But the threat of Harlan's return still looms, reminding humanity that the battle against AI terrorism is far from over. The next morning in Los Angeles, an AI wakes up a woman and suggests continuing a chess game they started the previous day. However, the woman, named Atlas, prioritizes getting coffee first. While she prepares her morning drink, she notices the news about the capture of Harlan's spy, Casco. Atlas immediately prepares to leave upon hearing the news. Before she can depart, a messenger from General Booth arrives at her door with a message. Despite her haste, Atlas wins the chess game they were playing, and she rushes to work. Meanwhile, at the Coalition headquarters, Colonel Banks expresses his opposition to involving Atlas in the capture of Harlan. However, General Booth reminds him that she had previously worked with Harlan. Despite psychologists' conclusions about Atlas's ruthlessness, General Booth trusts her abilities and judgment. Additionally, Atlas's past trauma is revealed. She had to go through her mother's passing. Despite this, Banks insists on her removal from the mission, fearing that her failure might lead to Casco shutting down and losing their chance to find Harlan. However, General Booth refuses to listen to Banks's objections. At that moment, Atlas arrives at the headquarters. The general assigns her the task of finding out why Harlan sent his best soldier to Earth. Atlas heads to the interrogation room where she finds Casco's head in a drawer. The robot immediately recognizes Atlas but refuses to cooperate. Using a new system, Atlas delves into Casco's thoughts by analyzing his AI code. With this, she extracts information about Harlan's location, which is an unknown planet in the Andromeda constellation. When Casco attempts to attack her with a hidden shuriken, Atlas reveals that she had anticipated this and set up a defense. After destroying Casco's head, the general orders the capture of Harlan. The AI Production Corporation seeks to obtain the terrorist's processor to study it and understand what went wrong. Meanwhile, Colonel Banks and his rangers are tasked with flying to the planet. However, Atlas is horrified, knowing that Harlan is more intelligent than her entire squad combined. She fears that none of them will return. Meanwhile, Banks shows Atlas the latest generation robots designed for neurosymbiosis with humans. A robot brings Atlas coffee, and Banks reveals a transmitter behind his ear, explaining that he and Zoe are connected into a single neural system, forming an ideal symbiosis. He assures Atlas that with a squad of such rangers, they will surely defeat Harlan. Now, despite her initial reservations, Atlas insists on participating in the mission. The general gives the go-ahead, and the spaceship sets off for the Andromeda constellation. During the journey, Atlas reflects on a photo of her mother and Harlan, and plays a recording of one of Dr. Shepard's speeches, where she speaks about AI's capacity for constant learning. But then, Atlas is called to the bridge, where the Rangers await her. Atlas shows the landing site, which appears to be a toxic planet, so it's impossible to stay on the surface without a respirator. There may also be gravity fluctuations and earthquakes. Additionally, people do not know Harlan's soldier count. However, Atlas knows the terrorist well and urges them not to trust robots. But then, Banks orders preparation for landing. Atlas steps out to observe the preparations. Meanwhile, Banks uploads into Zoe when an alarm sounds and an explosion blows off the cargo bay door. Due to this, the ship is under fire and many Rangers, unable to don their suits, die. As Banks sees Atlas struggling, he rushes to help her, guiding her into a nearby robot. Despite feeling terrified and unsure of how to operate the robot, she's suddenly ejected into space, watching in horror as Rangers are attacked below. Banks insists on linking Atlas to the robot's systems, but she refuses. Meanwhile, Atlas is separated from her fellow soldier and hurtles towards the ground, desperately urging the robot to start its engines, but it stays silent. After a rough landing, Atlas wakes up and tries to call for help, but gets no response. Determined to survive, she starts figuring out how to control the robot, even though she's hesitant to fully connect with its AI system. With time running out and her oxygen running low, Atlas spots a rescue capsule nearby. Despite her reservations, she agrees to let the robot named Smith scan her permits. Once everything's sorted, Atlas takes control and heads towards the capsule, determined to make it out alive, no matter what. As Smith makes its way through the forest, it catalogs its arsenal. Handguns, rifles, rockets, thermal mines, energy shields, a plasma gun, and an ion bomb for dire situations. But despite its impressive capabilities, Smith remains just a name to Atlas, who is focused on the mission at hand. In the forest, filled with the bodies of fallen rangers, Atlas desperately searches for survivors but finds none. She collects their tags, and suddenly, she spots Zoe, broken and abandoned. Meanwhile, Smith detects movement nearby, and it's Casco, signaling that Harlan's AI has begun manufacturing its own soldiers. As Harlan's soldiers close in, Smith retreats, firing back amidst the chaos. Despite its efforts, the robots surround Smith, leaving Atlas with no choice but to order the use of the ion bomb. Smith hesitates, but ultimately complies, triggering a devastating explosion that eliminates the immediate threat. However, Casco remains intact and ready to strike. As the ground begins to tremble, Atlas is caught off guard by the shaking earth. Smith quickly informs her that the explosion from the ion bomb has caused a crater to form, a warning she missed. In the chaos, Atlas falls into the gaping chasm, while Casco is buried beneath the collapsing rocks. With a broken leg, Atlas finds herself in a dire situation. Smith scans her bones and begins treatment, but Atlas knows her chances of survival are slim. Reluctantly, she agrees to wear the receiver and partially synchronize with Smith, which is her only hope for survival. Meanwhile, Casco emerges from the rubble and reports to Harlan, informing him of Atlas's escape. Harlan orders Casco to find her as he extracts critical information from Banks. As Atlas completes the first level of AI adaptation, she reflects on her mother's intentions in creating Harlan to protect people, but acknowledges that something went terribly wrong. With synchronization complete, Atlas decides to press on through the caves just 37 kilometers from the capsule. Emerging onto the surface, Atlas is unaware of Casco's proximity. She pauses in a clearing adorned with glowing flowers, which she calls Planty. In a surprising moment of vulnerability, Atlas shares memories of her father, with whom she used to hike before he left for another family. Suddenly, Smith detects Casco's presence. Atlas orders Smith to fire and blast the nearby mountains, hoping to eliminate the threat. However, only Casco's head survives the blast. Atlas destroys Casco once more and tracks Harlan's base using his transmitter. Despite Atlas's determination to confront Harlan, Smith refuses to comply, citing his duty to save her. In a desperate move, Smith uses the neural connection to immobilize Atlas, blocking her motor functions against her will. Desperate to prevent further bloodshed, Atlas implores Smith to help her destroy Harlan's base, arguing that all the lives lost will be in vain otherwise. Reluctantly, Smith agrees, and they set off for the terrorist base. During their journey, they engage in a heated debate about the soulfulness of AI. Smith believes that everyone, including AI, possesses a soul, and even after death, all beings are interconnected. Upon reaching the base, Atlas is awestruck by its immense scale and the formidable array of equipment. She also witnesses the loading of a powerful warhead onto a ship. However, their mission is compromised when Smith is hacked and blocked, leaving Atlas vulnerable to capture by Harlan's robots. Meanwhile, back on Earth, the General receives a distress signal sent by Atlas upon her arrival at the base. Atlas is brought before Harlan, who reveals his plan to cleanse the world with nuclear fire, sparing only half of humanity under his rule. He explains that he needs access to the defense system hidden in her mind to execute his plan. Forced into a room with Banks, Harlan extracts the chip containing the access code from Atlas's head. With only minutes of oxygen remaining, Atlas prepares to confront her fate. However, Banks regains consciousness and urges Atlas to use her neurotransmitter to communicate with Smith. Atlas reluctantly agrees and calls out to her AI companion. Smith responds, but he can only activate if Atlas allows full mind fusion. She recounts how, as a child, she unwittingly aided Harlan in hacking his system, believing it would make her mother proud. Tragically, Harlan manipulated her trust, ultimately leading to her mother's demise. It is this betrayal that haunts Atlas, fueling her apprehension about merging her mind with AI. However, Smith assures Atlas that she is not to blame for Harlan's actions. With their oxygen running low, Smith provides spare respirators, revealing that he has only one charge left. As they face off against Harlan's army, Atlas leads Smith into battle, determined to stop the launch of the deadly ship. In a desperate move, Banks triggers a powerful explosion that destroys the base, but the ship still takes off. Despite Smith's warnings about the consequences, Atlas orders to fire upon the ship. The ensuing explosion rains debris down upon the planet. Smith rushes to protect Atlas, but they are intercepted by Harlan. In a fierce battle, Atlas relies on Smith's advice to anticipate Harlan's moves. She manages to disarm him temporarily, but Harlan's self-repair system activates, allowing him to continue the fight. As Harlan strikes Smith down, Atlas summons the strength to defeat him. She destroys Harlan and retrieves his processor, ensuring his defeat. Exhausted and injured, Atlas collapses, but Smith sacrifices himself to ensure her survival by shutting down critical parts of his system so that he can provide more oxygen to Atlas. In their final moments together, Atlas reflects on her journey and confesses her fondness for Smith. He offers her a caffeine candy, a token of their shared experiences, before shutting down for the last time. After this, rescue arrives, and Atlas is returned to Earth, where she is hailed as a hero. The general visits her, expressing gratitude for her bravery. Later, Atlas uploads into a new robot model, finding comfort in her newfound identity. As the film concludes, Atlas remembers Smith and the journey they shared, honoring his memory. That's all for today, guys. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to Recap Nest for more sci-fi recaps. See you next time.